This is a quick introduction to a service called Hypothesis. And what Hypothesis allows someone to do is to annotate, mark up, if you want to use that way of describing it, existing web content. So I can highlight and I can add comments. That's my two options. And when I do this, I can keep that content private, as maybe would be the case if I highlighted my textbook. I can make this public, and what a public annotation would amount to is that anyone who had Hypothesis open on their own browser would be able to view my comments, or I can share it to a group. And it's probably this last category, sharing annotations within a group, that maybe is the best model for classroom use. So Hypothesis I'm using here as a Chrome extension. I've already added it to Chrome, and I come up here. Here's the icon that will activate it now that it's been added. And so when I click on this, you'll see some simple tools appear here in the side of my browser window. One other thing I need to do right away is to log in, because it's going to keep track of this by my login. All right, so I'm logged in. And maybe one other thing I should demonstrate before I actually do any annotation is this option. So up here you can see I'm presently have the option of public annotations. But if I want to do that kind of thing for a class, or for sharing with a certain number of other individuals, I would want to create a group. Now, I've already used this in a class, and so you can see here I'm sharing. Here's one option I have. I can share with the individuals who I've indicated to be in this class, or I can create a new group, perhaps for a different class. And this would be important if creating one of these groups, if that was one of the options that I wanted to use. So basically, you have two opportunities. One is you can highlight content. I'm sure that's a familiar process for most of us. And in addition, you can add comments to something that's highlighted. So I'll show you how this works. Let's say I want to highlight this section here about hashtags. And you have to pardon my my use of multiple tools at once. It's really this set of options down here that I'm interested in. So this would be highlighting. And if I want to do a little bit more and I want to add a note, and I'll talk about the difference here in a second. Let's say I highlight this, and let's say what I want to do now is annotate this. So here's something that you may find confusing if you try this, and that is highlights on their own are not visible to others. The reason for that, according to the developers, is that if multiple people would highlight a page, to say publicly, and then you would try to read that page with Hypothesis open, it would be just a mess, because there would be all kinds of things highlighted. And so you can do, when you highlight, you can do that privately, and then you would see specifically what you highlight when you open up this particular application for a page. But if you want something to be visible to others, you have to annotate in addition. Now, there's a little trick. I'm not even sure how wise it is to use this, but you can add a note that's invisible, and that will make your highlighting visible. And so I can do that just by clicking the space bar here. If I was adding a note, that's kind of a workaround. And if everybody did that, it would create kind of a mess. But if you're doing this with a small group of students and you want them to see your highlighting, that might be a thing to remember. Just enter a blank space in the annotation, and that will cause the highlight to be visible. But the real intention of the annotation box is to offer a comment. This could be a comment, something you want to add. It could be a question that you want to ask and have people consider, or any of these things. Now, the little part that I selected for annotation involved the use of hashtags and search. So in a Twitter chat, participants use search to follow the discussion, and the search term is the designated hashtag. All right, so now I post this to public, or if I was doing it for a group, I would select post to a group, and so now I can hide this, or I can bring it back when I open the page, and I can see my annotations, or someone else could see my annotations and the content I've highlighted. So perhaps one more thing, I should bring this back again, and that is the sharing approach. So let's say I had a group and I, before class, highlighted something I want them to look at, and I have designated the group, who those members are. I would then come up here and I would send them this link, and this link then would be what they would log into, and they would activate Hypothesis, and then they would see what I had created for them. So maybe in summary, Hypothesis is a Chrome extension that allows a layering of highlighting and annotation to be added to existing web pages. It does not actually change the original web page. When someone has a Hypothesis account and opens that same page, you can then see the public commenting offered by others. And if you're in a group for which that annotation and highlighting is intended, and you have the web address, you can see the commenting that's intended for you. So again, this is a way for the instructor to kind of add value and direct the activity, the thinking activity of learners, for web content that they have selected for student use. I'd like to do a quick demonstration here of the capabilities of Docents Edu. So this is a service that allows an educator to kind of use existing web content and encourage learners to think about it in ways that the educator believes would be useful. In this case, I'm using it as a Chrome extension, so I've added the Chrome extension to my Chrome browser, and when I do so, you'll see this icon appearing up here, and so the procedure would be to find a website that I want to annotate, mark up for students, and then click this icon. This would bring up this toolbar, and this toolbar then would allow me to do certain things with this web page. So I've done a few of these things already. This tool allows me to highlight, and so you see here I've highlighted this sentence about the importance of using hashtags in a Twitter chat, and I then decide, well, I need to explain that more because it's kind of a subtle but important point, and so I have then inserted this little note in which I try to explain, what's significant or what they should think about. And so I'm trying to make the point here that unlike the normal use of Twitter, in which you see things posted by those you follow. In a Twitter chat, you use hashtags and search, and so you can follow a discussion even though folks offering comments within that Twitter chat aren't necessarily those you follow, which is an important point to understand. And then let's see, I think I want to demonstrate one more thing. So, okay, what's a slow chat? So I'm going to ask a question about this. And so the question now will appear below here. And let's see, why might a slow chat result in a different type of thinking than a regular chat? And so I have now created this question at this point. And the student, when they come to this question, obviously now can generate an answer that I can get and evaluate. The following, final opportunity, it allows me to insert questions that can generate viewable discussion, let's put it that way, which would be different than a question each participant answered and the answer came to me as the instructor. Now when a docent has been completed, I can see it here. This is my dashboard, and up here you can see the completed docent, and you can see if I click on it, it then appears, and as you can see, this would be the version that the student would view. So a quick summary: Docents Edu allows an educator to take an existing website, web page, probably created by someone else, and to layer on top of that content tasks and annotations that would help a learner process that content in a more effective way. To be clear again, it does not modify the content generated by someone else, but it's a way to combine the work of the educator with the work of the content creator in order to have an effect on the learner.